Discretion is advised.
Welcome to the African bush. We are following a lovely little breeding herd of elephants. You can see a couple of little youngsters and a big adult female, and it is nice and hot here on the African savannah. This is Safari Live. Ready?
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome to Fairview Elementary and Parkway Elementary, and also to John M. James Primary in Canada for your school drives. I can't wait to hear from all of you. As you can see, we've got a lovely little herd of elephants out in the open here. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have my good friend aka Batman on the back of the vehicle today, and we're going to spend a little bit more time with these ellies, and they're moving from shady patch to shady patch because it is very hot, about 31 degrees Celsius, 78 Fahrenheit. And let's see what these ellies are going to get up to next. Hello, big girl. So she's not the most relaxed elephant. I'm watching her body language. See, her head's held high, and she did give us a little head shake. So we are going to keep our distance from her unless she decides to come close to us. And then you can see that little baby, just over a year old, can no longer fit under mom's belly. And the other little boy, about 7 or 8 years old. Isn't that exquisite? Now they're going to a tree called a marula tree. And these marula trees have fruit on at the moment, and it's a really, really great source of food for elephants and very high in vitamin C. So, as I said, we're going to make sure they've got enough space. We're not going to approach them straight on. We're going to keep our distance from them, making sure they feel comfortable. And we are on the Game Drive channel with trackers, with other cars. Standing by, fan. Copy, thanks, fan. Tristan's on his way. Okay, look at this. There we go. And you can see now the elephants are very relaxed. We haven't driven straight at them. We've kept our distance a little bit, and as you can see now, she's completely happy and carrying on with her daily business. Now, a little known fact is that during the summer months, elephants will eat 80% grass and only 20% trees and bushes, but during the winter months, when there's not much grass around, they'll eat 80% trees and bushes and 20% grass. And there's that little one, so just over a year old. Both the young ones are little boys. Now, she'll be part of a bigger breeding herd, and at this time of the year they do tend to split up, and elephants live in quite complex little family groups. Normally it'll be aunts and uncles and sisters, well, not so many uncles, but young uncles. The males leave the herd at about 15 or 16 years old, when their testosterone levels get high and they start becoming a bit of a problem for the ladies. Now, what we're looking at here, as you can see, we've got the little baby that's a year old, that's definitely belongs to that female, and we've got the 7 or 8 year old who's too old or too young to also belong to this female. So it's probably his aunt that he's with at the moment. Now, Aubrey is wondering, how big can elephant ears get? Well, on her, those are probably about 1.2 meters across, but on a big elephant bull, they can get as big as 1.8 meters. And we can see there's a little wet patch behind her eye. That's the preorbital gland, and it secretes when her hormones are up or in times of stress. I don't think it's stress that's causing it now. I think it's probably due to the fact she's still producing milk for a little one. Now, Alan's asking, how much can an elephant weigh as an adult? Well, an elephant female of about her size, she probably weighs about 3,000 kilograms, just over 6,000 pounds. But a big elephant bull can weigh as much as 12,000 pounds, 6,000 kilograms, give or take a few hundred pounds here and there. Now they're slowly, steadily moving. Now elephants are one of the only animals that are able to really operate in the heat of the day. Most other animals like to be in the shade, and one of the reasons they are able to operate in the heat is because of those big ears we were just talking about, and you can see them flapping away. Now the elephants can have about up to 8 liters of blood in their ears, which is around just under 2 gallons of blood, and as you can see, they flap it and it cools the blood, which then keeps them cool. So that's why they are able to operate often in heat that other animals can't. Okay, well, these eddies are steadily moving on, and as I said, they're not the most relaxed herd, so we're probably going to leave them be and see what else we can see. Now, I'm not the only one out here, so let's go meet Tristan, who's got a little primate.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Safari Live and our sunset drive. My name is Tristan, and on camera here I've got Xongile, and we are busy sitting here trying to get a glimpse of some vervet monkeys. Now, these vervet monkeys are being a little bit difficult. They are kind of hiding away from us a little bit. They keep going into the thick parts of the tree where it's really nice and shady, so they're being a little bit naughty, but that is quite typical of monkeys. Monkeys are naughty little animals anyway, so it's not a big surprise from them. You can see that monkey there, like I was saying, has tucked himself up in that thicket and is just sitting busy feeding off what looks like possibly some of the marulas, although I don't see many on this tree. There might be other little insects or flowers that he might be potentially finding. I can't actually see very nicely what he's grabbing there, but whatever he's grabbing, he is thoroughly enjoying. They are quite ferocious eaters when they want to be. You can see doesn't really finish what's in his mouth, which is very naughty. If that was me, my mom would have probably given me a mouthful and told me off for eating with my mouth full and putting more food in my mouth. She used to tell me that I was squirreling when I was a kid, and she was saying that because when a squirrel puts too much in its mouth, its cheeks bulge, and so that's often what my mom used to say to me, so better not to eat like that. And you can see it's kind of disappeared a little bit, but it's a really, really nice tree for a bunch of monkeys. You can actually see there a nice long tail that is hanging down. So these vervet monkeys, it's one of the key IDing features of them is that very long tail, and that just helps to balance this monkey when it's climbing around in the tree. You can imagine when they're bouncing around and playing and running up and down, they need a little bit of extra balance, and so that tail just helps quite a lot. So, talking of being a kid, I'd like to welcome all the schools that have joined us this afternoon. It's really, really great to have you guys on board. So, we would love to hear from you. You can send us some questions through Twitter at #SafariLive or to questions@WildEarth.tv. It would be really great to hear from you guys. So, send us loads of questions. We'd love to answer them. Hopefully some of you have monkeys as a favorite animal, so while we're sitting here, it would be good to hear from those of you that do. I know at the moment they're not being too active, but hopefully they are going to come out. Just as we arrived here, there was actually one female that has a tiny, tiny, tiny little baby. And I'm not sure if it's that one that is actually sitting with its tail dangling down. I seem to see something on its chest there, but it's really tough to see. You can kind of see there, it looks like the head of that little baby. Just on the chest there, you can actually see when it's breathing, the head is moving, and there's a tiny little ear there. So that is a tiny, tiny, tiny baby that is latched onto its mom's chest. It's holding on, and the mom will then carry it around and look after it. Now, I would imagine that that little monkey is probably not even 2 or 3 weeks old. It is still very, very small. When they are small like that, their ears are bright pink and they are quite dark in coloration. And that's why we can't see it very nicely, because in that shady terrain or shady area, it is very, very difficult to see that dark object against that light blue sky. But it is there. You can actually, like I say, see it moving around from time to time. They are very, very, very cute when they're little. So hopefully it's going to come out a little bit for us. Jaden, since we're on the topic of food, you would like to know whether they have special food that they like. Well, I suppose they do. They're much like us. Each monkey will have its favorites, but they are kind of bound to nature and what nature gives them. So often you'll find that monkeys will make use of whatever tree is providing the most for them at the time. So at this time of the year, these marula trees, lots of them are fruiting, and so the monkeys will target those fruits. As we go on and the marulas stop fruiting, so they'll then target other trees. They'll go to things like white berry bushes, buffalo thorns, and they'll eat all of those little berries off there. And when the fruits and berries stop, then you'll find that they'll look for grass seeds that they sometimes eat, and even sometimes bits of vegetation like leaves. So they have quite a varied diet, but yes, there are certain favorites. Like I say, the marula is one of those. It's very, very sweet and very, very tasty. My cameraman for the day, Xongile, is particularly fond of marulas, so he also likes them and shares that like with the monkeys. Just see one of them was just jumping off there. And Richard, you would like to know whether these monkeys, when they get bigger, they leave the group. Generally, no, they don't, unless it's a young male that is trying to mate with females, and there is a dominant male within the troop, and they chase them out. So sometimes you'll get young males that will distribute out, but generally the females just stay within the troop, and you'll end up with a situation where you have multiple different females and lots of little babies together and a big male. Alright, so while we hang about with these monkeys who have found themselves a perfect little branch to sit on, we are going to go across to Brent, who's got something with very large ears.
Well, there we go. As we were saying, a lot of animals like to stay in the shade when it's hot like this, and those are kudu. And these are two really magnificent big kudu bulls. The one on the right is particularly large, and now keeping in the shade, ruminating. They won't move around too much in this heat. They'll try to stay where it's nice and cool. Now, this is one of the biggest antelope species we get here, and they are magnificent. Now, they'll also be out on these clearings in the shade, taking advantage of the marulas, so also eating the same fruit that the elephants were, but of course they're also eating all sorts of other little plants. And as Tristan would have said, the monkeys are eating the marulas, the baboons are eating the marulas. Lots of animals really like marula fruits, and they are taking advantage of this summertime boom. You can see all the butterflies as well flying past the kudu. Oh, I think one butterfly nearly gave him a fright. So when it's hot like this, there's very few animals that are out and about and on the move. Most of them will be sitting in the shade or keeping cool in a mud wallow. So I think I'm going to go check some mud wallows. Maybe we might find some buffalo. They like to lie in the mud when it's hot like this. But as it gets cooler, the animals get more active. So hopefully we'll see lots and lots. Who knows, maybe there's some big cats out there to be found this afternoon. While we continue on, let's go meet Jamie, who's on foot in the African bush.
And a very good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to the on-foot portion of this sunset safari. My name is Jamie. This afternoon, Liam is the gentleman tasked with holding the camera and the rather large backpack that he has to wear. And the reason we've been absent right up until now is because we've been walking around a herd of elephants. The same herd of elephants that was on quarantine clearings with Brent just a few moments earlier. That's the big open clearing outside our camp. And we came out and tried to walk around them, and unfortunately they decided they wanted to walk where we were walking. So we had to just do a bit of a circumnavigation and up onto a termite mound. There they go, off towards the water, I think, which makes Brent's plan of going to check the water holes a really, really good idea. And a very special warm welcome to all of the schools that are joining us. Now, Aiden, apparently you're worried about dangerous animals. Did I hear that right? Are you worried about dangerous animals on our reserve? Are you worried that any of them... Still don't know what you're saying, Jerry. Extinct? Endangered. Endangered animals. You're worried about any of the endangered animals that we have. Are there animals that we worried about? That is a very, very good question, because yes, there are. There are quite a few animals that we are worried about and that we're very, very invested in protecting. One of them is the rhino, because there is a very big problem with people catching rhino, shooting them, and using their horn in medicine. And it's silly, because horn is just the same thing. A rhino horn is the same thing that your fingernails or your hair is made of. You might as well chew on your hair and say that it's medicine. So we worry about the rhino, and we try really hard to teach people that it's not, that they're more valuable, they're amazing animals, that we must keep them alive and protect them. Wild dog, another type of animal that we are worried about and that we try and protect and look after. That is a type of dog, but it's basically like the African equivalent of a wolf. So it's like our wolves, and they're incredible hunters, but unfortunately they've been hunted as well by various people throughout the ages, so they're also endangered. And then there is this amazing animal called a pangolin, and I'm sure maybe if you ask Brent really, really nicely, or Tristan really, really nicely, they might show you a picture of what a pangolin looks like. As you can see, I'm not carrying any books with me at the moment because it's hot and I don't want to have to carry any books, but a pangolin looks like it's a scaly anteater. So it kind of looks, do you know what an artichoke looks like? A pangolin looks like a walking artichoke, like somebody made an artichoke into an animal. Or if any of you are interested in Pokemon and you're probably might not be too young, I don't know. You might be a little bit too young. It looks like a sandslash, just without the massive claws. That's what a pangolin looks like. And they're also really endangered, again, because people use them as what they call medicine. But it's not medicine, and it doesn't work at all. It's just this mythical belief that they're somehow going to heal you of your diseases. So those are the type of creatures that we do worry about and that are endangered. And there's lots of animals where you live that are also endangered and that you must also be invested in protecting, because they're so, so precious. And everything out here works on a scale. Everything out here is perfectly balanced. And even if you take away one species, even if it's an insect, even if it's a frog or a type of bird, anything that you do upsets that balance ever so slightly. So there's a type of insect in the rainforest, and we get them here as well, and you get them as well. And I can't remember what they call them in the States or in the North Americas, but they are called a stick insect here, and it's an insect that looks like a stick. And stick insects are vitally important to forests, because they eat some of the trees that are growing when they're tiny, and that stops the trees from growing and blocking out the light, and then it means that the other plants below that can't grow. So they keep that balance. They don't eat all of the trees, they eat some of the trees. So if you take stick insects away, that balance shifts and everything is slightly off kilter, slightly wrong. Now, the two of us would really like to get down this termite mound, but unfortunately we're going to need to do so without falling down. So while we try and get down without falling down, Tristan's found something beautiful for you.
Yes, Jamie, be very careful, don't fall down. It's generally quite tricky negotiating some of those termite mounds, so best to watch where you're going. And we do indeed have something beautiful. Now, what you can see there is a whole bunch of butterflies that are sitting at the edge of a little bit of water on the mud, and those butterflies are called African vagrants. And what they are doing is they are busy having a little drink. Alright, so they have a very specialized little mouth part that's like a long straw, and they'll then put that little mouth part into the water or into the mud, and they'll be able to drink up little bits of water to rehydrate. So basically it's like them going to go to the tap and having a little drink. But aren't they very beautiful? You can see the wind's giving them a bit of trouble, blowing them off balance slightly, so you'll find every now and then one of them will take off and land again as it gets blown around. But they are absolutely beautiful. Something quite mesmerizing about, or captivating about watching them just sitting there on these beautiful summer days. Alright guys, but we're going to probably let them carry on drinking. I'm going to try not disturb them, so I'm going to go around them and hope that we don't interrupt their drink too much. It is quite warm this afternoon, so I don't want to take away from their time at the waterhole, although we have disturbed them a little bit. But they will land back there. They are not going to be too fazed by it. So we're just heading down towards Twin Dams to go and see if we can find any sign of those two leopard cubs that Brent had this morning. Hopefully they'll still be there. Like I said, it's very, very warm today, so generally cats in the warmth will try and kind of find somewhere to have a nice rest. Well, welcome Parkway Elementary. It's great to have you guys joining us this afternoon. And you are saying that it is very, very cold where you are, and that I keep saying it's very hot. They would like to know what kind of temperature it is. So it's Celsius, or about 87 Fahrenheit. So quite warm. It's not as hot as it can get. We do get a little bit warmer than that. I have had some days here that go over 120 Fahrenheit, but those are very, very rare, and thank goodness we don't get too many of those, because that is very, very hot. So today is not too bad, and like I was saying a little bit earlier, there really is a nice breeze blowing today, so it's quite cool when we're driving like this, and when we're in the shade it's very, very pleasant. But when you sit in the sun, it's very, very hot. And you can imagine for some of the animals that are covered in fur, like the cats, that it is a lot warmer when you have that fur than it is even for us as humans. Alright, so while we carry on looking for these leopard cubs, we're going to go back to Jamie, see if she's safely negotiated that termite mound, and apparently she's found something on a stick.
We have safely negotiated the termite mound, which is good for you because we found something amazing. And this is the fun thing, because whilst the vehicles can go out and look for leopards and lions, because we're here on foot, we get to find you all kinds of the smaller things. And isn't this creature incredible? It's a punk caterpillar. I don't actually know what it is, but it looks like it's got a mohawk. Look at it like that. Look at it front on. So this is what we in South Africa call a hairy caterpillar. And the reason that I'm holding the stick and not the caterpillar is because I really, 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 really don't want to touch this caterpillar. Neither does Liam, and none of us. None of us will ever want to touch a hairy caterpillar, because we've all done it when we were children. and it is unbelievably uncomfortable. So these little hairs on the outside of the caterpillar that you can see, those will embed themselves in your skin and make you really, really itchy. So they are incredibly uncomfortable. Now, why do you think a caterpillar needs to be hairy? What do you think those hairs might do? Well, think about if you're a bird or something that likes to eat insects, maybe a mongoose. Can you imagine going and swallowing that? Can you imagine what those hairs would feel like on the inside of your mouth? Very, very uncomfortable. Now, I don't know what particular species of butterfly this turns into. Actually, I think it probably turns into a moth. I can just tell you that it is really very pretty. So at some point, this little guy, and I will put him back exactly where I found him, because remember, certain caterpillars eat certain types of plants. Remember how we talked about balance before, and how certain insects play a role in sort of managing certain species? Certain caterpillars eat certain plants. So if I take him now and I put him somewhere else, he's not going to be very happy, because then he doesn't get his favorite food. So I'll put him back exactly where we found him when I'm done, because he's got to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. And then this amazing thing happens where it spins a cocoon. So it spins it with silk or something like that. Some of them go underground, some of them go into little crevices, and they basically turn into goo. And they turn into goo, and then all of their cells come back together, and lo and behold, they break out as a butterfly or a moth. I don't know why I feel like this is a moth. I just find that generally the bigger hairy caterpillars tend to be moth species rather than butterfly species. And I like moths. Moths are really... Something just flew into my hair. Oh, it's gone. I was going to try and catch it for you and show you that too. But you see how absolutely gorgeous that is. Yellow and orange and black. And all of those colors in nature. See what I mean about it having a mohawk? Definitely has a mohawk. And all of those colors, red, yellow, black, orange, any bright colors like that tell you something about that animal. It tells you that it's dangerous. It's called aposmetic coloring, and it basically means, don't eat me, I'm poisonous. Now he's saying don't eat me because you'll get really, really itchy. Now, of course, because everything in nature has the balance, there has to be something that can eat this caterpillar. And there are certain types of birds that are very, very patient and have a really long beak. I love his little, I love the little fur bits sticking out on either side. Isn't he cute? Now there's a type of bird that will come and grab this caterpillar and rub it against a branch. So over and over and over and over until all of those hairs are gone, and then it can eat the caterpillar. But most things don't bother, which is why this is such a clever system. However, you want to know if we're ever afraid on this reserve. There are times that I've been scared, yes, because these are wild animals and they can be dangerous, and we do live in their home. So absolutely, I'm always trying to be constantly respectful of that. So there are times I'm not going to pretend and say I'm really, really brave and I've never ever been scared, because that's not true. Sometimes I have been scared. But your chances of getting hurt out here, because it's important to remember there is no animal that wants to hurt you. Whoa, he's coming for me, except that caterpillar. Look, he's charging. He's going to come and bite my finger. He's not going to bite my finger, I promise. Look at him go. I'm just going to casually move my hand and swap fingers so that I don't have caterpillar hair all over my fingers. So yes, I've been scared sometimes with upset elephants, or sometimes I've accidentally stumbled into something, but hardly ever. And your chances of being hurt by something out here are very slim, because the animals only hurt people when they're afraid or when they're trapped. They're not like certain people that will kill just because they feel like it. So sometimes I've been scared, but mostly I've just been really happy that I get to see these amazing animals. Look at you, like this one. And Kaimora, he's coming for me. I really don't want him to touch my skin. I've just done it too many times as a child. You want to know, very clever question, if all butterflies go through the same cycles, because you know that they go through 4. Look, hello. Hello. But you never see butterflies in Virginia. Did I hear that right? I've never been to Virginia, so I'm not sure about butterflies and whether or not you ever see them. But butterflies can migrate. So yes, all butterflies go through the same process, where there's an egg, then there's a caterpillar, then there's a cocoon, and then there's the adult butterfly or the adult moth. Say hi. Whoop. Playing a juggling game, and I'm trying to hold the branch steady at the same time. Hello. Isn't he cool? Shame. Let me pop him back. So I don't know about whether or not perhaps your butterflies migrate. Some of ours migrate, and they can actually cover big distances when they fly around. So some of them can migrate. Maybe that's why you don't get to see that many butterflies. I'm not sure. But I can tell you that we will definitely try and find you. I'm sure Tristan, he showed you butterflies already. But we've got some really, really pretty butterflies and some very pretty moths. Now, speaking of pretty things, I'm going to put ours back, and I'm going to send you over to Tristan, who's got a really beautiful bird.
Indeed, Jamie, it is probably one of the most beautiful birds we have out here. It is in the shade a little bit, but if you have a look on top of its head, you will see the absolutely beautiful coloration that is sticking out there. So that is a woodland kingfisher, and it has these bright, bright blues on it. Like I say, is probably one of the most beautiful birds that we see out here. They are incredibly pretty. And even though it's called a kingfisher, this bird actually doesn't hunt fish. This is an insect eater, and because it's an insect eater, it means that this bird is only here for our summer months. So we only get these really pretty birds in our summer months. They unfortunately are not here all year round. Well, actually, fortunately, Brent and I were talking about them yesterday, and how they sit often near your bedroom window at ungodly hours at 4 o'clock in the morning and talk about and start singing away in this bright, chirpy voice. And so they wake things up. Now, the reason why we spotted him is actually because just above you can see a little tail hanging down there, and there we have a young little female leopard. And so that is one of Karula's little cubs. Her name is Xongile, and she is having an absolute fat cat nap. It is, like I said, quite warm, so she's found herself a perfect shady tree and a nice flat horizontal branch where she is busy resting. And I don't know if you heard in the background there, was that kingfisher busy calling. It seems like it's disturbed Xongile as well, not just Brent when he's having a good sleep. You can see she's trying to get herself comfy. I think there's a bit of sun that started to hit her while we've been sitting here. The shade moved slightly, and so I think she's getting really quite hot on her back, and that's why she just adjusted a little bit. Leopards will do this. They don't always sit dead still in a tree. They often try and reposition themselves as much as possible just to get as comfortable as they can. And you can see there that she's got her one foot down on her back leg and her tail, and those are there just to balance her and to make sure that she's very comfortable. And isn't that tail absolutely beautiful? And now if you look at the tail and the lightness of the leaves and darkness of the shadows around it, you can see why that white and black pattern actually works really, really well. If you look in the background, it's very, very bright, and so that matches the white parts, and then the dark leaves match the black areas. And so this leopard actually camouflages really, really, really well. You can imagine in a thick, dense, bushy area, it would be quite tough to see her. And even though we are sitting right below her, she still actually was quite tough to see. So, and as I was saying, they are quite tough to see when you're sitting right below them. And Kingston has actually just asked that exact question. How do you know where to find them? So Kingston, these leopards are territorial, so it means that they have an area that they move around in, a home that they will occupy, and that is generally done by their mother while they're at this age. And so we know that within a certain area is where these leopards like to move, and then from there what we do is we try and look for any signs of their footprints. Alright, so we'll look where they've been walking, generally on the roads or on little paths through the bush, and once we find their footprints, then often we'll try and follow those on foot to try and find them in the block. In this occasion, we were very, very lucky because Brent managed to find them this morning, and then we came down here and we looked around, and because it's quite warm, she's very kindly gone up into a tree, which made her a lot easier to spot. So that is how we find them. Generally, it's through a tracking process, so getting out of the vehicle, looking for where they've walked, and then following those little footprints, and that leads us to them. Today we were very fortunate in that they haven't moved far at all. We've been lucky that the weather has been quite warm, and so for a cat, like I was saying earlier, it's not a day that they're going to be moving a lot. The only way they would have moved would have been if their mother had come and found them. If she had maybe caught something during the day and made a kill, then she would have come here and grabbed these cubs and taken them to wherever the food may be. So that's why they're actually very stationary, is that they're sitting here waiting for mom. They know that mom is out busy hunting, and so as soon as she's caught something, she'll then come back and take them to that food. So they are being good children. They are waiting very patiently. They are not actually behaving too badly as well. She's fast asleep, and so not misbehaving at all. And you can hear the kingfisher is misbehaving massively. It's making a big racket in the back there. Bryce, well, you've asked me now, if kingfishers don't hunt fish, why do they have such long beaks? The reason is because this kingfisher is still hunting things that move quite quickly. So it's hunting things like grasshoppers, frogs, small mice, centipedes, millipedes, so all kinds of varied insects. And so when they fly down, those insects are not always going to sit still, and so that big beak allows them to get close enough to grab it before the insect disappears. Also, when they catch things like mice, I've seen them with that beak fly down and actually hit the mice with the beak and almost stab them to try and kill them. So the beak is used for two things. One is to get a little bit closer to the insect so that it doesn't fly away and doesn't cause any damage to the eye area, as well as to be able to pierce or stab their prey item. I actually watched a really interesting video of a woodland kingfisher attacking a black mamba. Now, a black mamba is a big snake that we get here in Africa. It is very, very venomous and not something you want to go anywhere near. But this kingfisher obviously was in a very bad mood, and it was flying down and stabbing that black mamba around the head area with its beak, and it eventually killed that black mamba. So it was quite an amazing video to see. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like that with the kingfisher. Like I say, generally they'll target food items that they can eat. This black mamba was far too big for it to eat, so it was more out of aggression than anything else. And in all likelihood, it could have been that that kingfisher had a nest close by with babies, and it knows that that black mamba is very dangerous for its babies, because black mambas will often go into the trees and look for the young birds and then feed off them. So it's probably in all likelihood protecting its nest, and so that's why it's come down and used that beak to be able to stab that snake. Pretty amazing if you ask me. I don't think I would want to get too close to a black mamba. They, like I say, are very, very dangerous indeed. Yaisa and Aiden, you've asked me how long do leopards generally live for. Well, it's quite variable. Obviously, it depends on the amount of leopards that we have in a given area and the amount of interaction that they have with other predators. But an average lifespan for a female leopard like this one would be probably about anywhere between 14 and 18 years. In this particular area, most of our females will live between sort of 16 and 18. In some other areas, a little bit earlier. The males, unfortunately, are not as long-lived, and that is because they tend to fight a lot more, and they have to do a lot more patrolling of territory, and so they bump into a lot of other leopards, and they ultimately injure themselves and get overthrown by younger males. And so their lifespan is normally around sort of 12 to 14 years. I have seen a male leopard go over 14 years, but it's very, very uncommon. And look at that cat. She has propped her head up against one of the trees. It can't be comfortable. That does not look comfortable in any way whatsoever. But it seems to be working for her. She seems to be quite happy with the way that she's popped her head up in there. it is quite funny. Like I say, I haven't seen a leopard actually sleep like that before, but she seems to be happy about it. You can see the one paw is down on the side just to help keep her up there, and she seems very, very content. Isn't that quite incredible? These little cats are very, very funny. So Rimian would like to know how we know so much about the animals and whether we went to school to know about them. Well, yes, we do. Most of us have gone to some sort of training college or training facility and learnt from more experienced guides that have taught us about these areas and about the animals and about the birds and the insects and the trees. And then from there, once you've got a base knowledge, the more time you spend out here and the more you want to learn, the more we do learn. So we'll, as guides, often talk to one another, and we'll try and find books that we can read and research and try and find the answers to the questions that we have. A lot of the time with nature, it doesn't follow what a book has to say. So there's some books that are written and they don't necessarily have the right information for the area that you're in. And so there's sometimes questions that are not answered. And so you have to do a bit of research and talk to people and try and read up on books from other areas and then try and formulate an idea of what's going on. But yes, we do go to formal training colleges where we learn, so it is like going to school, and those lessons, if you're lucky, are out in the bush, so you get taken out every day and the teacher will teach you about the things that you're seeing as you're going out. So in this situation, we would have stopped at the leopard and we would have gone through all kinds of things about the leopard, much like what we're doing. So it's a very cool experience. And then from there, you will start to write some tests. So you do some written tests as well. And then you'll also do a practical test where you'll go out and have to learn for yourself and then have to explain to people on the back of the vehicle what's going on when you're out there. So it is quite involved, but it is a very, very good system. It allows people to learn really, really well, and you get both a practical and a theoretical knowledge, which is really, really good. So even us rangers have to go to school. I know Brent doesn't like it at all. He was never a firm fan of school. I think Jamie, she was far more into school, and myself, well, I was on the fence. I pretty much liked school because I could play a lot of sport, but it is important when you become a guide. Unfortunately, you have to learn somehow, and so going to class and learning from a teacher is the best way to do it. And like I say, after that, being out in the bush is probably even better. You learn every single day you're out here. Even Brent and Jamie and James and myself, who've spent quite a number of years in the bush, we still come across things that we don't know, and so we, between us, try and find out. And so it's really the best place is to actually be out in the bush. It teaches you a lot every single day, and there's always something to be learnt. We do live among the animals. I suppose that is a fair assumption, but we don't sleep out in the open. We have a camp in close to Djuma Game Reserve, or Djuma Lodge, and it is a beautiful little part of the world, and all of us will have our own little areas, and we stay here in the reserve. So it means that pretty much every single day, all day, 24 hours a day, we are surrounded by nature, which is really, really nice. It's so nice to be out here because even you hear all the sounds, and during the day you hear all the birds calling, and last night we even had a leopard around our camp that was calling quite a bit. So it just makes it really, really nice to be inside the area. Also, because of the times that we work, we're generally up quite early in the morning and up late in the evening. It's very difficult to get here on time in the mornings, so if we stayed far away it would be tough to get into work. So we stay on property so that we can be here bright and early in the morning. Alright, so while we sit here with Xongile and hope that she gets a little bit more active from her slumber, we are going to go across to Jamie, who I think is being far more active than what we are at this stage.
I don't know how much more active than Tristan I'm being. I've just been standing here pretending to be a bird for a while and just enjoying the shade and the cool breeze that we have. And the reason I've been pretending to be a bird is because I found this amazing, well, actually VM found this amazing bird feather. Oh, it's been a little bit stuck together. It really has been stuck together. It's crispy now. So it's quite an old feather. And it probably just fell out of the bird, because birds, like, you know how when you brush your hair and you get strands falling out? There was a lot of hair. I'll just pretend that didn't happen. Birds also lose their feathers, just like we lose hair, and then they grow new ones, so that their feathers are always in really good condition. Because you can imagine if they kept the same feathers their entire lives, they'd kind of become, well, they'd look like this. And then the bird wouldn't be able to fly very well, because the air wouldn't pass over the wings particularly well. My guess would be that this feather comes from a vulture. And the reason I say that is the colour of it. It's a sort of a yucky brown. It's a sort of, not a yucky brown, it's a very average brown, and it's very, very long. So it's definitely a bird of prey. So it's a big bird. And some vultures, if you stretch out your arms, their wings would be longer than me stretching out my arms. So they're really, really big birds and really, really heavy birds. So I think that this was a vulture's feather. And this bit, you know how you have hair follicles, or where your nails grow from underneath your skin? This is how birds' feathers work as well. And this much of the feather would actually have been, there's a fly on my finger, would actually have been sort of positioned in the bird underneath the skin, so that it's secure. Because imagine if it was only this much, every time the bird flapped it would fall out. So you've got to have lots and lots of skin covering the feather, so that the feathers are strong and attached really well to the bird. Which feather do I think this is? I think this was a feather off its wing, because it's nice and long. Now, speaking about feathers and losing feathers, Yura, you saw some monkeys earlier, and hold that thought because I'm about to sneeze. Okay, it's got away again. Sorry, Yura. It's gone away. That's most unfortunate. Now it's stuck. Now the sneeze is stuck up my nose. Yuri, you want to know if the monkeys will lose their fur just like dogs do when it gets hot. Their fur does become, all of the animals out here, their fur becomes a little bit thinner. They don't shed in the same way that dogs do, that certain species of dogs do. And that's just because they're much better adapted to certain climates. Dogs, we've played a big role in breeding them, and of course out here we don't have really, really cold winters. It never gets all that cold, so they don't need really thick fluffy coats to keep them warm. And generally our winters, in the middle of the day, it will be mid-70s, give or take, so it doesn't get too cold. Now, unfortunately, remember how Tristan was saying you do need to go to school? Well, unfortunately, apparently you lot have to go and finish up with your school day. I'm sorry to say that is it. I hope we see you again, and I hope that you loved every minute of it. Until I see you, bye-bye schools, and have a fantastic time. For the rest of you, I'm going to send you over to Brent, I think.
Okay, welcome to all our regular viewers, and look at this, we've got a skulking little bronze-winged courser, a normally nocturnal bird that likes to sit in slightly open patches during the day, and it's sitting on one of the less used roads here on Chitwa. I think they are absolutely exquisite. You see that massive eye surrounded by white, indicating that generally more nocturnal, actually probably mostly crepuscular, the bronze-winged courser. A very, very beautiful bird who's pacing away from us. So we'll see if we can try to get a bit closer, but I think it's going to disappear into the bushes. So we're heading down towards the east, and we're going through Chitwa at the moment. I'm checking for any sign of Tundi in this area that's really, really thick. and then fingers crossed we might find Nkanyeni down on Cheetah Plains, my favorite leopard. We're also going to be doing some birding. This is probably one of my favorite birding areas at the moment, is this northern section of Chitwa. There's a lot of caterpillars around, so there's a lot of cuckoos. We've had some nice little raptors flying by, so hopefully some of them sit long enough for us to give you a view of them. Oh, is he going to stay? I didn't think he would stay out in the open. Here we go. Hello, little Corsa. See that really big eye? Beautiful. Off it scuttles. Okay, our aerial's got a slight lean to it while we're stopped here. Okay. So it's quite thick here, but good for birds, and it's also an area that Thandi utilizes regularly, and that's why I also like coming on these roads that aren't so well driven. A little bit of adventure. Absolutely gorgeous out here this afternoon. Not a cloud in the sky. Still quite warm, 78, 31. Of course, this is quite a lot of duiker and steenbok in this area as well, and that's one of the reasons a leopard like Thandi will like it. Smallish leopard, so she likes to hunt the smaller things, and not that she's not capable of bringing down bigger prey species, but it is just a little bit easier. Now I'm really excited to see if she's still got her cub, but I haven't heard anything for a while. Forest wanderer, so I just couldn't quite hear what was happening there, is wondering whether this is the sunrise or sunset safari. It is the sunset safari. I guess it's around 3:30 or 4:45 in the afternoon. Nothing there. So yes, sunset safari. The sun sets around 7 p.m. so we've still got quite a bit of daylight left. Now we've moved up onto the top of this hill, and you can see, even though the grass is quite long, it's slightly more open around us, and so on the crests, so we might see a few bigger marula trees up here. Oh, there's a birdie bird. Oh, no, it didn't land. Now I'm really hoping that we find Thandi in this area. I haven't seen her in a long time. And while we're going to keep searching carefully throughout this area, and while we do that, let's go back to Tristan and the lovely little Xongile.
Indeed, lovely is probably a great description of her. She's such a beautiful cat, and when she's draped over branches like this, she really is even better. So it is a beautiful, beautiful sight. I've actually always wanted to see a leopard in this torchwood. It's a massive tree that's you drive past often, and always think to myself, it would be really nice to see a leopard in the lower boughs of this beautiful tree. And so it's so nice to actually finally see one. The light itself is not ideal for her, but can't complain too much. It's still a leopard in a giant torchwood, which is absolutely beautiful. So I'm really, really chuffed to find her in here. It's a perfect place for her to be. Now, her brother, Hosanna, is actually still around. He is here, but he's in a terrible, terrible thicket. It's almost no visual of him whatsoever. He's right up under this shady tree, so he's got himself a prime spot. He actually went right close to the water's edge. That's not far away from us here, and there's kind of a marshy, muddy area. So I think where he's lying, the soil itself is really cool, as well as him being in a shady little area. It is the perfect place for a little leopard cub to spend the day and stay nice and cool. Like I say, Xongile herself is not doing too badly. The sun has shifted a little bit now, and so she's actually completely covered in shade herself, and so she is absolutely loving life up there. She's very, very relaxed now. She's found a very comfortable place for her head. Earlier she had her head firmly planted up against a tree, which did not look comfortable at all, but she did a bit of shuffling and moving, and she's now found herself a really nice place with her head kind of hanging over and her paw down just to balance her, and then her back legs and tail on the opposite side of the tree. So she's almost kind of diagonally across the branch, and so all is very, very comfortable in the world of Xongile right now. And you can see by the movement of the leaves that there is a really nice breeze blowing. It's a gentle breeze, and up there it will be even better. So where she's found herself is absolutely the perfect place on a warm afternoon like this. Like I say, there's not a cloud in the sky this afternoon, so she's not going to get any respite from clouds, so she's going to have to manufacture some shade for herself a little bit. Luckily for her, though, her woodland kingfisher has, well, the woodland kingfisher, should I say, not her woodland kingfisher, has left and is no longer making noise right next to her ear and disturbing her. It's flown off a little bit and is calling further away. So that will be quite a relief for Xongile. Be much better than having it barking in her ear. Alright, and so I'm going to just go and try and see if I can get a better visual on Hosanna and see what he's up to. And while we do that, we're going to go to Jamie and see what she's up to on her bushwalk.
There's nothing like a woodlands kingfisher chirping away at you. We've found something. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but it's actually pretty gross looking as grubs go. I suspect it is a grub of some description. I think it's probably going to turn into something else. Rexon suggested a fly. It's definitely not meant to be... Oh, hello, sorry. It's definitely not meant to be on the surface of the soil. That much you can see very clearly. Well, first of all, because it keeps rolling over. And second of all, because of its colouring. That is not the colour of any kind of insect that lives above the ground, or at least is diurnal. Sorry, buddy, I didn't mean to turn you upside down. Sorry. Oh, he turns himself upside down, you know. It's a defence mechanism. When he gets touched. Oh, no, he doesn't. He was earlier. Anyway, I'm not quite sure what this is, and I'm really open to suggestions as to what you think it might be. The other thing I thought of maybe was a wood borer grub. It's got quite strong-looking jaws. I know that wood borers put their larvae, or lay their eggs, and then their larvae hatch into the bark of certain trees, and they basically end up ring-barking some of the branches. And I know that this... I'm trying to show you, I just want to turn you round. Oh dear. Sorry. I just want to turn you around. No, he doesn't want to be turned around. Now he's trying to dig under the stick. That's interesting. He's learned. There it bit. I just want to show you the jaws. Now this one was looking most perplexed, and it almost became the meal of some hungry ants that spotted it. Hiron, you said it looks like a termite. That's something I considered, was the possibility of it being a sort of a queen of some... Not a queen, it definitely wouldn't have been a queen. A queen is much, much larger, but something of that description. That sort of caste of termites, the royal caste. They tend to be fat and grubby and very pale. Not, that sounds, sorry, I had a weird thought there. That was not a description for any other royals except the royals of the termite family. And you can actually see into its body. You can see things gathered at the back there. RJ suggested some kind of cockroach. Maybe, I don't think so. Oh, sorry, it's got these 3 legs right at the tip of its body. And I wonder why that is. It seems like such a bizarre design to have such a long dragging body when you've got 3 legs clumped, 3 tiny little legs clumped together at the front. I'm really not quite sure. It's got hairs on it, surprisingly. I suppose if it's an underground, I mean, this is definitely an underground creature, or at least if not underground, then in covered spaces. So I suppose having little bristles is a really good way of detecting sort of solid barriers or something similar. But this is truly fascinating to watch. David in Napa, you say where are the back legs? I don't think it has any. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's an insect. It's got 3 legs. 3 legs. Yes, because there is nothing in the world, JB, that has 3 legs unless it's been injured. I don't mean 3. 3 pairs of legs. Whoopsie. You see, it's not exactly coordinated, is it? And that's why it's got this bizarre design where it has to drag that ridiculously large bulk of its body up after it. Look at the way it's moving. This is not a creature that's meant to be in this kind of environment. I wonder if it didn't get caught by a bird or something and then dropped onto the road, because we just found it in the middle of the road looking thoroughly lost. And it still looks thoroughly lost, and I can't see any holes that it might have emerged from. So it doesn't have any back legs, which is why the design confuses me slightly. You know, long designs like this, caterpillars have legs all the way along. This thing's scrabbling. It's really not built for this. Ah! Awesome, Dan. Thank you very much. Dan says that this is the African fruit beetle grub. Now, Dan, are we correct in our assumption that that is not a grub that is designed to live in the way that this one is living? I'd love to know more info on it. The wonderful thing about bushwalk, of course, is that there's all kinds of weird and strange things that one encounters. So Dan, I'm very grateful for that piece of information, and I would love to know if it does live below the surface of the ground. Is it digging? No, it's just sort of walked into a blade of grass and now can't move. How on earth do they definitely can't live above the surface of the ground, or that thing would never survive? I mean, that is basically that's basically a delivery tray of a meal to something like a hornbill. I mean, if a hornbill was hopping along this road, that thing would be gone in 2 seconds. It's defenseless. But now it is digging. Look, it's digging. There we go. So it can dig. There we go. That answers our question. And it's actually an amazing digger. So it's definitely a grub. It's the grub of a beetle, because Judas is saying that it might be a grub of a rhino beetle. It certainly looks as though it looks like the grubs that I've seen of certain dung beetles as well. That occurred to me, that it might be a dung beetle larvae that got dug up a little bit before its time. When I said it was good at digging, it hasn't really managed. Now its head's back up again. Well, I suppose it is a tricky patch to dig on. Now you're doing a headstand. It's a yoga grub. What do you call that pose, Jerry? When you lie on your back and you put your feet over your head? Jerry? She appears to be ignoring me. Duly noted. Oh, there we go. Oh, Jerry's gone blank. Okay, that's... Oh, I was going to show you my friend that was on my knee, But as soon as I moved, my friend moved too. So I don't think it was a very good friend in that case. You had a spider friend as well. We should just sit here. It's quite nice and shady. It's quite a hot afternoon. We'll just see what else we can find. I've spent the whole way along this road tracking the movements of ants, because you can see their little pathways. They make little roads. It's been utterly fascinating. Of course, now I can't see one. They've been all the way along the road, and now I cannot see one of them. And our grub is... Oh, let me move my shadow, sorry. Our grub is now... I can't decide if it's better off. I suppose it's better off. Still not covered. Ah, plough pose. Thank you very much. That was the pose I was looking for. It was doing the plough in order to dig. Apparently that's the digging technique of this particular beetle grub. That was fascinating. Very, very interesting. Some sort of beetle larvae. Could be African... What is it? It's just gone out of my head. With the rhino beetle and the African... something that Dan just said. Fruit beetle. It's been a long day, my apologies. And while I try and regain my sense of coordination, and we hope our grub covers himself and does the same, let us go across to Brent with a bird of some description.
There we go. Another bird for our February bird list, and this one's got a feather out of place. Now, I know what bird this is, but do you know what bird it is? I feel like I haven't done a quiz in an age, so here we go, a birding quiz. I would like you to tell me what bird is that. Hashtag Safari Live, or on Twitter, or questions at WildEarthTV if you know what bird of prey that is. The one with the feather slightly out of place. Now, sitting on top of a dead, what does it look like? A dead marula from here. Keeping an eye out. Now, they will feed off rodents, as well as insects, grasshoppers, little birds, and they travel a mighty distance to be with us here in the Sabi Sands. Now, there's all the clues you're getting, and it's a good enough view, so we're going to continue on. We're heading down towards one of my favorite spots over the last little while, which is the Djuma Dam on Cheetah Plains. We had that wonderful elephant swimming a couple of days ago. Just hang on, what is that there? That is, oh, there it is making the noise. I was trying to see where he was. There he is, sitting in the shade. You see him there. Okay, up a little bit and to the left. Zoom on that dead branch a little bit higher. A little bit higher, a little bit more to the left. There we go. Here we go. Just because they were making so much noise, and I don't think we have them for our February bird list, the longer-tailed shrike. There you hear that more regular call. There we go. And they also have that very sharp. They're very noisy birds, and they live in flocks, and they're actually very aggressive birds, and they'll defend their little territory that the flock lives in against other long-tailed shrikes quite aggressively. I've actually seen them kill each other before. Oh, off he goes, and so shall we be. We've got two guesses in. Unfortunately, neither of them are correct. So can we get another view of him? View from here. That was a brown snake eagle or an African goshawk. Unfortunately, neither of those are correct. Neither of those are migratory species. They are both residents here. There we go. We can get a slightly more frontal version of him from here. There he is. Peregrine falcon, unfortunately not. I saw peregrines yesterday, but when we were off air, and I'm going to go look for them in the open area of Cheetah Plains a little bit later. Here we go, we can see a slightly better frontal version of him. Now, Daniel is obviously the comedian out there today, and he says the Maltese falcon. It is definitely not a Maltese falcon. Now, it is, as I said, a migrant. Excuse me. Oh, we've got another one, black-chested snake eagle. I'm afraid it is not either. Oh, this one's got you guys going for a bit. I think it's because I've been laxing on my bird quizzes. We're going to have to do a few more of them this week. Oh, Shikra, it is not. Didn't expect. I thought people would be on this one quite quickly. Another clue, it might be the one that confused Tristan a day or two ago. Well done to James. Indeed, it is a steppe buzzard, also sometimes now referred to as, I think it's a common buzzard. Now, they migrate from the steppes of Russia and Mongolia, from the big open grasslands there, where they spend our winter feeding on insects there, and they come to Africa to stock up on insects and rodents during our summer months. Now, there's a couple of reasons why it was a steppe buzzard, and I'm going to go through them with you shortly. I'm just going to get us down to the waterhole first. Hoping for some elephants as well. Now, we started off with elephants, but I feel like some elephants splishing and splashing would be a great addition to the afternoon safari. Doesn't seem like there's any fresh Ellie tracks around here. Maybe they've a different waterhole for a swim. But there are other animals coming down to sate their thirst at the Djuma Dam. And I wonder if the shy hippo is still about. Surely he must be getting used to us by now. But there we go, a lovely little group of Inyala heading down towards the edge of the water. Oh, little one there as well. This is sort of ideal Inyala territory, along the edge of a little river system, and lots of nice different species for them to browse off. A lovely big bull with them as well. You love the white chevron on their schnoz. Yeah, they're about to disappear around the corner. So we're going to have a look at number 2, which is the steppe and common buzzard. Now, that was a medium morph. You could see the yellow on the beak, yellow around the eyes, and you could see the yellow legs as well. So, and you just could make out the barred flanks. So there we go, the steppe buzzard. It's not really too much else you're going to get confused about with the steppe buzzard once you learn him. And remember, no feathers on the legs, so it's not an eagle. Okay. Now, we're just going to quickly show you, so to get our February bird list continuing, some village weavers. A lovely big colony here at Djuma Dam. Beautiful. Okay, so while we continue on our search for all sorts of creatures here in the east, let's go back to Tristan with young Hosana.
Indeed, we've managed to find Hosana, but as you can see there, it took us a while. I don't know if any of you can actually spot him in that frame, but he is there. He is just sleeping at the base of those trees, so he's busy lying down in the grass and doing his best impersonation of grass. And you can actually see, look at the amazing camouflage that he has. He's managed to just hide inside there, and there we go. He's kind of lying with his head curled in. It's a perfect spot to be in. It's nice and cool and shady there, and he's lying right at the edge of water, so the mud itself is probably quite cool. So he's really got himself into a really nice place to sleep. It's also a really good place should anything arrive here. He's getting to that age now where he's starting to hunt, and so where there's water like this, we'll often find things like impalas and waterbuck and the likes that will come in to drink. I did see a waterbuck when we first arrived. It went the opposite direction, but I did see one. And so when he's sitting like that, you can see he's almost invisible. So if anything had to come and try and drink in this area here, it would be very easy for him to be able to stalk and grab that. So perfect place for a little leopard to hide. He's got himself really in a great spot there. Like I was saying earlier, it's still a little bit warm, and that's probably why the two of them are so stationary at the moment. There's really no need for them to be moving around in heat like this. They can just wait until this all subsides and it gets a little bit cooler, and then they'll start to move around. Also, he has been nursing a little bit of an injury, so maybe that's also why he's kind of tucked in there and is not too mobile at this stage. I haven't actually seen him. This is the first time I've seen him since I've joined the Safari Live team. The last time I saw him was about a month ago. Oh, are you going to get up for us? Indeed, there he goes. Looks like he's seen something in the grass there. You know, with young cats like this, they sometimes see things like grasshoppers, and they'll go into stalk mode and try and catch them. It's just all part of their youthful exuberance. But whatever he's done, he's made himself almost invisible. It is pretty much impossible to see him there. Isn't that incredible? That camouflage is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, we are right zoomed in, and you cannot see anything but a few spots. And as Jean-Ray zooms out, just try keep your eye on him. He seems to be moving a little bit there, but it's very difficult to actually see him anymore. He's gone into that longer grass now and has become almost invisible. And that is why a leopard is such a successful predator. Getting into position like that, you can imagine any animal that came past here would not have the slightest clue that that animal is lying in there. Even for us with the camera on him, it is very difficult to make him out. So that is absolutely amazing show of camouflage. It just proves the point why leopards are so elusive and why sometimes you can drive right near them and not even see them. Absolutely incredible. Indeed, Debbie, he is impersonating the grass. He's got tired of impersonating the grass and he's woken up for us, which is great for us because we can actually see him now. And isn't he magnificent? Like I say, I haven't seen him for a month or so, and he's still growing by the day. He's getting absolutely massive. He's a really big boy, and he is very pretty. I really like him. What is he chasing? There's obviously something inside there that's catching his attention. We are on the edge of these watery areas, and I know this morning he was playing around with a terrapin, so I wonder if maybe there's not a terrapin here that he's busy terrorizing in that grass. I can't see what he's got there. Like I say, the grass is too long, but there's definitely something that's interested him. You can see he came running in there and he's got his head down and it seems like his legs are moving quite a bit, so I would imagine there's something There we go. What's he picked up? No, he's got himself a terrapin or a tortoise. There we go. So he has picked it up, and that poor terrapin is going for a ride. It's going to go for a little walkabout. I don't think his jaws are strong enough yet to break through it, but he's definitely ruined that terrapin's day. He's picked it up and pulled it into the bush. I'm going to just try see if I go forward a little bit, maybe we can get a better view of him. It's not great inside there. Xongile, let's try the other side. So we're going to just try and get around and see if maybe we can see from the other side. Like I say, where he is really quite tough. It's very dense in there. Okay, so this is going to be a little tougher than I thought. So while we try reposition and get ourselves in here, I'm going to go across to Jamie and see how she's doing on that side.
I've been trying to think of a clever fable to tell you about this particular story, because this is the first time in all of my time in the bush that I have ever seen anything like this. And it's basically a fable in my very quick head about the elephant and the tortoise, because today is not the day for Chelonians. Remember I told you the story about that girl that I was walking with? I don't know which of you were watching that particular safari. But the tale of the girl who stepped on the elephant shrew. We have a different tale to tell, and it's the tale of the elephant that stepped on the tortoise. I have never ever seen this before, and I actually never really thought that it was possible, because I mean I've always spoken about the incredible perceptive abilities and sort of social, what's the word? Spatial perception of an elephant. This is the elephant's track here, just in case you are doubtful. This is the elephant's track here, and you can actually see from the way that this shell was broken which way he was going, which matches up with his tracks exactly. The crack has gone down into the tortoise's shell and then back that way. Now this poor hinged tortoise did not escape the elephant. I can only assume that the tortoise was running. I'm sure the tortoise was running. I'd also run. It didn't run fast enough, clearly. No, I can only assume that the elephant was running, because I've never really, I don't know whether Tristan or Brent have ever seen an elephant step on a tortoise. Perhaps they have. I certainly never have. So this really is a first for me. You can actually see where it's pushed back against the sand. It's been all but finished off by the ants, so I mean it hasn't gone to waste, but it does seem rather sad. I wonder whether the tortoise ever saw it coming, or if it was just a very quick and sudden, 1 minute it was crossing the road, the next it was flat. Why did the tortoise cross the road? This one didn't. It's quite fascinating, really. I don't want to touch it. Tortoises generally, especially old tortoise carcasses, can be all carcasses can be unpleasant things. Tortoises in particular have a tendency to feed off things like hyena dung. I don't know why I thought a grass blade was going to work. Hold on a second, let me just stick. I'm really just being lazy. No, it's fine. Thanks, Viam. I'll do it with piece of bark should do. I just want to lift up and have a look, because you can actually see the bones. Oh, I stepped in the elephant's track. So this is very clearly, I mean, this was a big elephant, to be fair to the tortoise. So at least it went out with a bang. The elephant track is about that big. So it was a very big bull. Not for the squeamish or faint of heart. It's just a rattle of bones. Here's its feet. What remains of its feet. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes. So in the track of a tortoise, you can actually see those 5 toes in certain circumstances. You can actually, it's a bit smelly. The ants have done a marvelous job. You can see the scales of the skin around its legs. Very, very hard, very bony scales. And of course the bones of its legs as well, that have been almost completely uncovered. Isn't that amazing? I want to try and see. Oh, there's the little bone. They're the little bones of the feet. Hold on, I'll turn it around for you. You can't really see them. But over there, The little bones, tiny little bones like the wrist. You know how you have all of those wrist bones in your wrist, those little sort of funny square ones? That's what's over there in that tortoise, underneath those feet. And obviously those are the bits that haven't separated because the ants couldn't get in underneath the skin. And then you can see its vertebra. So this is recent. Oopsie. I made one of the vertebrae pop out. Wonder where its tail's gone. Oh, there. It flopped into the body itself. And then, can you see in there, Vim? Or not really? Not really. Fascinating, though. I'm sorry, little tortoise. It was a he. You can tell by the curve of the plastron. So this bottom part, you can see here how it's slightly curved inwards towards his belly. It might have been a bit hard to see if he'd been stepped on and had been squashed slightly. But no, it was a male. I like to think that he died happy and relatively oblivious, perhaps chasing after a female. That's the happy story I have in my head. Alternatively, there is a sort of quite a gruesome just so story, or perhaps an Aesop fable about picking on things that are larger than you. And perhaps the tortoise teased and teased the elephant until it stood on him. I doubt it. Now, Paul, you want to know if I can tell its age. It's difficult with tortoises. So the rings on the shell, the grooves on the shells, on the scales of the shells, the scutes of the shells, they are sort of like rings on a tree, but not really. So obviously the tortoise goes through growth spurts as it ages, and so it has periods where it grows faster than others. However, doesn't continue evenly throughout its life, and it also rubs smooth around, because this is obviously where the scoot started growing. So these bits rub smooth. So it is difficult to tell. In terms of size, for a male Speke's hinge tortoise, it's quite large. I'm no expert at aging tortoises, but I would see that this one's seen at least 10 summers and winters go by, probably more. They're quite slow-growing creatures, so even a tortoise that you see that's about this big, about the size of my hand, essentially, that tortoise is probably close to a year old, possibly even older, so they do grow quite slowly out here. I'm not quite sure about Speke's hinge tortoises, though. I'm not 100% sure. Perhaps it was old. Maybe it was old and had lived its life, and perhaps it wanted to go out in a glorious way, and it certainly has done. Christopher, you want to know what the biggest tortoise is, because of course this is one of our smaller species of turtle. Trevor, sorry, I don't know where Christopher came from. Uncertain. Sorry, Trevor. Trevor, you want to know what the biggest species of tortoise is in South Africa. Leopard tortoise. So a leopard tortoise in extreme circumstances can reach almost up to over 80 pounds, possibly even more. So they do grow very, very large. Largest one I have ever seen was about this big. Like what ball would that be? Like half a watermelon? It's not really a good description because they're not shaped like watermelons. Oh, there's some of our friends' bones. I must have accidentally flicked them. My word, I feel like a paleontologist. How's that? Perhaps this is different. I don't understand. Here we go. Found some more bones. Curious. Oh, it might actually have been when it was being fed upon. It might have been, this leg might have been dragged, because you can actually see this is a proper leg connected together. Isn't that fascinating? I find it fascinating. Utterly fascinating. I almost want to put it together, except I wouldn't know where to begin. Too many intricate small bones. Right, I'm going to continue on from our tragic scene of the tortoise that didn't win the race. In the meantime, let's go across to Brent to find out what he's up to and where he is.
Look at this. Not a bird we've seen too often. We're right on the southern boundary of cheetah plains. And this might be a new one for a few bird lists out there. It is a double-banded sandgrouse. And that's the male. I don't know where the female disappeared to. She was with him earlier, but she's probably foraging around close by. Now, the fascinating thing about sandgrouse is that they often nest really, really far from permanent water. And when they have chicks, especially in the winter, they will fly to a waterhole and they will collect water in their breast feathers. And then they will fly back to their nest and give their chicks the water from that is collected in their feathers. Now, we only get one species of sandgrouse here, and they're not too common. They're generally more common in the drier areas, but in places where you have multiple species of sandgrass, they can often descend on waterholes in flocks of thousands. So, of course, that causes a bit of a traffic jam. So they've evolved different times to come and drink. The double-banded sandgrass will go to a waterhole and drink at sunset. The yellow-throated sandgrass will drink at 1 o'clock in the morning. The Burchell's sandgrass will then drink. Oh, sorry, not the Burchell's, there's one other. The three-banded sandgrass will drink at sunrise, and the Burchell's sandgrass will drink at 11 o'clock in the morning. And this is all to make sure that they don't over-compete and you don't have too many birds descending on the waterhole at a time. Now, when these big flocks do come down, certain animals have learned how to take advantage of this. And is that the female that's popped out there, or is that still the male? I think that's the female who's popped out onto the road. No, it's the male again. Sorry, they're quite far. So the female doesn't lacks that double band on his nose. That's where he gets his name from. They are very pretty birds. Now, as I was saying, so they've developed a timeshare system when it comes to utilizing water holes to stop congestion. But one of the animals that has learned to take massive advantage, especially in the desert areas of the sandgrasses drinking, is the African wildcat, caracal, jackal, will all hide behind rocks near water holes and then jump out. Oh, there's the female a bit closer to us. She's popped out of the grass. There she is.